Thanksgiving rolled around, and there we were, my uncle at the head of the table, carving the turkey like it was some kind of throne ceremony. He looked right at me and said, "You should be grateful we even let you come." My mom? She just gave a polite, faint smile, the kind that dodges confrontation. I stood up, lifted my glass, and replied loud and clear, "Thanks, that really reminds me why I ate before I showed up." A few hours later, a lawyer showed up at the door holding an envelope. My mom opened it right at the table, read the first page, and her face went white. "He wouldn't dare," she whispered. But the truth is, I showed up to Thanksgiving that morning with a bottle of wine, a plain sweater, and a smile I had half forced into place. I'd driven 4 hours through nonstop traffic and pouring rain, trying to convince myself the tight feeling in my chest was just nerves, nothing more. I kept repeating it like a prayer. Family is messy, sure, but not cruel. They care in their own odd ways. They forget to say the right things. Yeah, but maybe this time would be different. It wasn't. My uncle carved that turkey like he was proving a point. His knife caught the overhead light just right. It gleamed like it knew what was coming. Everyone was laughing, talking over each other, passing bowls and plates. Then mid-slice, he dropped the line. "You should be thankful we even invited you." There was a beat of silence. Then a few forced laughs broke the tension. My mom gave that tight, quiet smile that says she heard it but decided to pretend she didn't. She even raised her glass toward him. That was my moment. I stood, slowly raised my own glass, and said, loud enough that nobody could claim they missed it, "Thanks, really." That reminded me why I had dinner before I came. It stung to say it, but I meant it. And for the first time, I didn't feel like covering it up with a joke or smoothing the awkwardness over. I just told the truth. The laughter died. I set the glass back on the table, calm and steady, and walked away. No plate. No goodbyes. I wasn't trying to win anything. I was just done shrinking myself to keep everyone else comfortable. That was the first time I chose truth over peace, not to cause distance, but to finally stop editing myself just to fit in. While they were still eating dessert, the knock came. The lawyer handed my mom an envelope. She opened it right there at the table. "Read the first page." She turned pale. Whispered, "He wouldn't dare." But I did. Not out of spite. Not to cause drama. But because I'd finally stopped wondering if I was just being too sensitive. I didn't fully understand the weight of it back then. At first, it just felt like bad luck, bad timing. Like I'd always shown up a little off. Wrong day, wrong outfit, wrong words. And I'd keep changing the story in my head to protect them. Maybe they were tired. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe it wasn't really about me. But it always was. That Thanksgiving moment? It wasn't the first time. It was just the first time I stopped pretending it didn't matter. The next morning, I sat alone in my apartment, reading a message from my cousin. "Your mom said you made a scene. Ruined the holiday." I laughed. Not because it was funny, it wasn't. But because I'd heard it before. That's what they always said whenever I stopped playing along. Every time I stopped being easy, every time I stopped fitting the mold they made for me, it was suddenly me who ruined everything. That night, my mind spiraled back through a dozen quiet slights dressed up as misunderstandings. Like my brother's birthday dinner, I showed up late because no one told me they'd changed restaurants. "We thought you saw it in the group chat," my mom said. Only I wasn't in that group chat. Never had been. Or my dad's retirement party. I'd spent 3 weeks putting together a slideshow of memories. At the last minute, they replaced it with a more polished version. No one said a word. Not even a mention. Or the time I paid off part of my sister's tuition, she told her friends her boyfriend helped out. Said I just loaned her his laptop. Still, I held on to the hope that one day, they'd come around. That if I just kept giving enough help, enough support, enough pieces of myself, eventually they'd start to see me. That being useful would finally earn me a place at the table. But I was learning the hard way. Being needed isn't the same thing as being loved. When my uncle made that turkey comment, it wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. He said out loud what the rest had been quietly thinking for years. "We don't actually want you here. We want what you bring." That night, I couldn't sleep. I opened old email archives. Dug through receipts. I started putting together a picture. Not for revenge. Not yet. Just to finally see it all clearly. Like that flight I booked for my mom last year so she could visit an old college friend. She posted a photo online, saying her husband surprised her. He hadn't even known she was gone. I found every Venmo transfer from family dinners where someone forgot their wallet. Every streaming service, household bill, or shared app one paid for without a second thought. The business software I installed for my dad's company, now saving him hundreds a month in licensing fees. No thank yous. But worse, no one even asked. They just logged into the accounts, used the tools, and when something broke, they'd call me. Fix this. Not, can you help? Not, would you mind? Just fix it. And maybe that was on me too. Maybe being needed made me feel like I mattered. Maybe I thought it meant something. But I was beginning to understand, needing someone isn't the same as loving them. And yet, I kept showing up. Every single time. Right up until Thanksgiving. Until I raised that glass and walked away. That moment? That was the line. And I crossed it. They never thought I would. Part of me still held on, though, hoped someone might call afterward. Not to ask for help, not to fix a login issue, not to reset a password. Just to ask if I was all right. To wonder why I left. But in their eyes, I was always the dependable one. The helper. The quiet guy who never caused problems. The son who always kept the peace. Something cracked that night. Not inside me, I was fine. What shattered was the illusion. I stopped squinting to see the family I wished I had, and for the first time, I looked straight at the one that actually existed. And man, that truth hit like a freight train. I wasn't a son to them. Not a person. I was a free service, always on call. That envelope the lawyer delivered? It wasn't just about money. It was about accountability. It was the first time I'd ever handed them a bill, for all the hours, the effort, the presence. It was payment due for being the foundation they leaned on without ever saying, "We see you." And here's the part they'll probably never get. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it because I finally saw the pattern for what it was, and I'd had enough of hoping it might change. The envelope hit the table, and just like that, the silence set in. No one called after Thanksgiving. No one offered an apology. Not even a half-hearted excuse. Just the kind of silence that tells you they're already busy rewriting the narrative. So, I started rewriting mine. That Monday, I opened up my laptop and logged into all the systems they'd been depending on, the ones I'd spent years quietly building. The security setup in their house? The fancy Wi-Fi mesh that kept everything running smooth? Configured under my account. My dad's cloud folder where he stored all his tax documents for clients? Still running on my license. The streaming apps. The family phone plan. Even the subscription to that magazine app my mom used every week, all of it was tied back to me. I sat there with one phrase echoing in my mind. You should be thankful we even invited you. So I decided it was time to settle the balance. First stop? The phone plan. 5 lines, all under one account. I unlinked every single one and transferred them into their own names. No warning. No explanation. They'd get the alert. And if they didn't accept the transfer within 3 days, the lines would go dark. Next, I tackled the cloud services. My mom's Google Drive, the one with all the family photos. Gone. My dad's Dropbox access for his office files? Disconnected. My sister's school documents, her essays, and scanned applications? Access revoked. All of it was running through the shared infrastructure I had built and paid for under the umbrella of my so-called family enterprise. One click. Removed. Then I opened up my password manager, the one I'd set up back when my parents couldn't remember how to get into their email. What started as a little favor for their inboxes eventually became the key to everything. Banking, insurance, utilities. They'd forgotten how to log into their own lives because I'd always held the keys. So I updated all permissions and reset every system I'd maintained for them. Next, I dissolved the Amazon household group. No more Prime shipping. No more shared grocery lists. No more access to the Kindle library I'd built over a decade of late nights and lost weekends. Piece by piece. Quiet and clean. Each action felt small, almost invisible, but I knew they'd feel every single one. This wasn't about payback. It was about giving back the responsibility they'd never actually shared. I wasn't punishing anyone. I was stepping away. I was letting go of a role I'd never agreed to in the first place. I didn't pull the plug out of spite. I did it to balance out years of quiet imbalance. I wasn't their fixer anymore. I wasn't the tech guy who showed up on holidays, got everything running again, and got paid in awkward half smiles and backhanded thanks. I was the system. And I was logging off. Letting go of that identity felt like breaking up with a version of myself I hadn't realized I'd outgrown. By that afternoon, I turned my focus to the physical services at their house. All of it had come from a place of love, until I noticed how much it was taken for granted. The smart thermostat? Admin access removed. The video doorbell I installed last year? Shut down. The auto lighting setup I programmed so my dad could brag about energy savings to his buddies? Unplugged. I didn't sabotage anything. I just ended the support. All their comfort? It had been borrowed. And now I returned it. By 6 p.m., the first text came through. My sister. Why can't I get into my email? Did you change something? I didn't answer. Then my mom. Netflix isn't working. Can you fix it? I just stared at the screen. Fix it? Always those two words. Never, can you help? Never, would you mind? Then the real punch. A notice from the mortgage company popped up. I'd completely forgotten I was still listed as a co-signer on their refinance from 2 years back. Just to help us qualify, my mom had said at the time. That night, I submitted a formal request to remove my name from the loan. It would trigger a financial review. And I already knew they wouldn't pass without my credit history. This wasn't revenge. This was truth. A long overdue reset. It stung to go through with it, no lie. But pretending everything was fine had been hurting me a whole lot longer. The next morning, I got a voicemail from my dad. We don't know what's going on, he said, but it's childish. You're making this harder than it needs to be. It was the first time he acknowledged anything was off. But even then, he didn't ask. He just assumed I'd fix it, like I always had. I didn't call back. Instead, I opened my files. Pulled every invoice, every subscription, every signed agreement that tied me to their comfort, directly or indirectly. I highlighted every item. Labeled each one, unreciprocated. It added up to more than I expected. So I built a spreadsheet. Not for vengeance, for clarity. I wasn't cutting them off. I was letting go of a version of myself they never respected. The next step would be bigger, legal, irreversible, and clean. But first, I needed to finish taking back the systems I'd created. Because I didn't just build their comfort. I vanished in the process. And now I was coming back into focus. I knew what came next would be messy. But it was necessary. But it had to be done. That spreadsheet I put together that night wasn't just numbers or expenses, it was a map. A detailed ledger of every quiet way they'd taken from me, swipe by swipe, month after month, subscription after subscription. There were more than 30 entries. So I started closing the gaps. The storage unit my dad kept for his old tools? I cut that off. I'd been paying for it for 5 years, no questions asked. The business software I managed for my dad's company? I wiped my credentials clean. Locked them out completely. They hadn't paid for a single license, it was all under a package I'd quietly labeled Family Tier. That tier was done. No notes. No warnings. Then I checked the email server I built for my uncle's dental clinic. Yeah, the same uncle who joked that Thanksgiving about how I should be grateful just to be tolerated. Their whole practice ran on our infrastructure. Firewalls, patient portals, encrypted backups. All of it was tied to my business account, free of charge. I scheduled their service to end in 7 days. I even left a message in their admin dashboard. This system was provided free for 11 years. It will be deactivated on the 15th. Please migrate your data. Professional. Polite. Final. The next morning, my company's client portal lit up with activity. My dad's name. My uncle's. They were logging in, clicking through, realizing what was happening. I didn't wait for the angry calls. I knew they were coming. So I called my lawyer, not to sue. Not yet. I wanted separation. To cut every legal tie they had to me. Because they were everywhere. My name's still on the mortgage as a co-signer. My contact info listed for medical emergencies. My credentials tied to the family trust. We started drafting the paperwork to remove me. I sent the form to legally withdraw from the mortgage agreement. A notarized letter to my mom's insurance company, removing me from liability. And I froze the trust I'd funded 2 years ago, that fund meant to secure the family's future. No more distributions until a full review. Then came the symbolic moment. I logged into the old email my mom used as the backup for all family accounts. The one I'd created for her back in 2009. Every password reset, every verification code, routed through that inbox. I changed the password, logged out, deleted the recovery information. That account died quietly at 11:42 a.m. on Tuesday. It had served its purpose. That afternoon, my cousin texted me. Your mom says the house Wi-Fi is down. She asked if you unplugged something. I hadn't touched a thing. It went offline automatically when the license expired. No admin. No support. Just an error message. This service has been discontinued. She'd have to call someone else now. Someone she'd have to pay. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't about the money at all. It was about being deliberately ungrateful. For years, I paid the bills they conveniently forgot to mention. Built the networks they depended on. Created the systems that made their lives easier. And they used all of it while acting like none of it mattered. So I gave back nothing. Not out of spite, but because I finally accepted the truth. They never saw me as a person. I was support. And I don't do support anymore. I left myself one last note. Not for them. For me. Pinned in my journal app. They didn't miss me as a person. They missed the peace I created by never pushing back. The systems you built held their mess together. You weren't invisible, you were the frame. They just never looked at the walls. I had enabled that silence because I thought harmony meant hiding the pain. They didn't apologize. That would have required self-awareness. What followed was noise. Frantic. Desperate. It started 3 days after everything went dark. My sister texted first. You're not making any sense if we're family. Fix it. Fix it. Still the same words. Like those words could undo gravity. Then my mom left a voicemail. Sobbing. Not because she felt sorry, but because she was annoyed. You left us in a terrible spot. Your dad can't even get to his files. We have appointments next week. What are we supposed to do? I didn't respond. The more silent I stayed, the louder they got. That Friday morning I saw a post from my aunt, vague, passive-aggressive. It's sad when ego ruins connection. Families are built on forgiveness, not revenge. I ignored it. But then my cousin sent me a screenshot from a private group chat. My mom was there, saying I was having another episode. That I was irrational. Out of touch. That's what they say when you stop saying yes. That was the pivot point. When guilt doesn't work, they call you broken. No longer the generous son or helpful brother. Now I was the problem. The liability. They spun a story overnight. One where I'd lost it, overreacted. Where none of this was deserved. Where I wasn't a man drawing a line. I was a ticking time bomb they'd been saintly to tolerate for so long. They told anyone who would listen that I was bitter, that I threw a tantrum over a dumb Thanksgiving joke. One cousin even messaged me privately, asking if I was okay. They said they were just worried. Thought maybe we should talk it out. Family's complicated, they said. But they love you. I ignored all that. Because love without accountability is just manipulation dressed up nice. Then things escalated. My dad emailed my workplace. Subject line. Concern about my son's mental state. He sent a long, oddly formal message, claiming I'd cut myself off from family and was making reckless financial choices that might mess up my client relationships. He even CC'd my uncle. A thinly veiled threat masked as fatherly concern. I forwarded it straight to HR with a quick note. Family dispute. Non-issue. No action needed. Then I blocked his email. But they weren't done. That weekend, a burner Twitter account showed up, using my name. It followed all my friends, colleagues, even clients. Posted a thread filled with fake screenshots, supposed rants I'd written about family, coworkers, and my company. It was sloppy, amateurish, wrong tone, awkward grammar, fake timestamps. But none of that mattered. It spread fast. For 2 days straight, my phone blew up, calls, texts, even one journalist reaching out. I stayed calm. Sent one group email to everyone concerned. That account is fake. Legal steps underway. Thanks for your patience. Then I logged off. Called my lawyer. We traced the account to a VPN exit node in the same city as my parents. Not concrete proof, but definitely suspicious. Then my cousin, the one who used to send me memes at 2 a.m., messaged me with the real kicker. Your mom says you threatened to sue her, that you're trying to steal her retirement. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so predictably twisted. They'd taken the truth and warped it into a story they could swallow. A tale where they were the victims, and I was the monster. The guy who'd carried their lives on his back for years. But I didn't argue. Didn't post rebuttals. Didn't respond. When you stop enabling dysfunction, it doesn't just go quietly. It fights back, loud and ugly. And I wasn't stepping back into that fire just to explain the burns. So I made my move quietly. Permanently. I updated my legal documents to explicitly cut my parents out of all future decisions. No emergency access, no medical proxy, no financial fallback. I left a message from my financial advisor. If they contact you, send them to my attorney. Then I posted one final message online. Not for them, but for me. It took me years to realize, not everything called family is healthy. Sometimes family isn't about blood. Sometimes blood ties don't guarantee respect. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away before you get burned too. I turned off the comments. Turned on peace. They wanted silence. I gave them clarity. Not yelling. Not threats. Just facts. It started on a Wednesday. My inbox pinged. A message from a former colleague. Subject: you might want to see this. Inside was a link to a Facebook thread dragging my name through the mud. My mom had posted a carefully worded update, dripping with passive sympathy. It's so hard watching someone you love struggle. Please pray for my son. He's isolated, angry, and lost in bitterness. We've tried everything. Underneath, dozens of comments. You're such a strong mom. He'll come around. Mental health is tough. Stay patient. They were spinning a narrative. One where I was unstable. One where my silence was guilt. One where my pulling away was fallout, not freedom. I took screenshots. One after another. Then opened the folder I'd been building for months. Screenshots, emails, invoices, access logs, contracts, bank statements, messages, call logs. All time-stamped, all real. At 3:04 p.m., I went live. A single compost. No insults. No attacks. There's been a lot said about me lately. I've stayed quiet, not out of shame, but exhaustion. But since stories are being told, here are the facts. Then came the receipts. $12,000 I paid when they missed 3 months of mortgage in 2021. Venmo logs of my sister sending a laughing emoji after I covered her rent. Emails from my dad asking for favors, 12 times over 3 years. A full breakdown of the tech systems I built for their businesses, valued at over $30,000 in services. Text messages where my mom said, "It's just easier when you handle it. You're good at being invisible." I posted it all. For a long time. Because I'd thought if I stayed useful enough, they'd finally see me. Then I finished with this. I didn't disappear. I disengaged. They didn't lose me. They lost the version of me who never said no. The one who held everything together silently. I logged off. By nightfall, the ripple had turned into a wave. Friends messaged. Old classmates. People I hadn't heard from in years. Even my boss sent a short email. "We've got your back." But the real shock came the next morning. My mother's bridge club friend, the one who'd said, "They didn't deserve that," commented publicly. I was at that dinner. I saw how they treated him. They joked about writing off a broken son on taxes. I was horrified. Then a former assistant from my uncle's dental clinic spoke up. He ran that place, for free. I saw the emails. The pressure. Don't let them flip this. Then a screenshot surfaced. A private group text where my sister said, he was only ever useful when we needed something. She forgot who she shared that chat with. And it blew up. The narrative unraveled on its own. My dad posted a vague quote. Betrayal starts at home. Nobody cared. Comments were disabled within an hour. My mom went silent. My sister deactivated her account. But it wasn't over. At 2:43 p.m., I got a call from a blocked number. I answered. It was my uncle, the dental one. His voice shook like he'd aged 10 years in 2 days. What did you do? He asked. I told the truth, I said. You've embarrassed us publicly, he snapped. No, I corrected. I stopped carrying a truth I couldn't bear alone anymore. He hung up. By 6 p.m., I had over 200 new messages, 20 missed calls, emails from journalists asking if I wanted to go public. I didn't respond. Not because I was afraid. Because I had nothing left to say. Facts had to speak for me, since my words were always ignored. That night, for the first time in years, I slept a full 8 hours. The next day, they came to my door like nothing had happened. Mom, Dad, and my sister, lined up, practiced faces, matching coats, matching desperation. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. We just want to talk, my mom said softly. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done pretending. Boundaries aren't walls, they're clarity. I wasn't shutting love out. I was shutting the door on a version of myself that existed only to serve others. I said nothing. You made your point, my dad added. But family isn't war. No, I asked. Then what do you call 20 years of silence while I built your life for you? My sister looked away. We didn't realize how much you did, my mom said. Not sorry. Just surprised. Then she said it. We need you. There was. Not miss. Not love. Just need. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. You didn't just lose a holiday, I said. You lost someone who gave everything, quietly for years. So that's it, my sister asked. No. Not over a joke. Over 20 years of quietly giving, hoping it meant belonging. Until I learned boundaries are love too. They didn't reply. They didn't apologize. So I turned and walked back inside. Closed the door. That was the last time I saw them.